Welcome in to a Saturday edition of The Lawyer You Know. And I mean, it's just blowing up the internet right now, this whole Gabby Petito story, and her fiance, Brian Laundrie, who's also now missing. So we're going to take some time this morning to go through what we know, the facts we know, what some of the disputed facts are, the fact that the families are kind of getting into it and arguing about what's true and what's not, what's happening and what's not. So we're going to talk through a lot of different things in today's episode. But before we get to Gabby Petito and what's going on and what's new, we also got a lot of questions on our last video that was just a short 5-minute video talking a little bit about the facts of the Petito story. We got a bunch of questions there, and instead of typing the answers in the comments, I decided to do this live video to answer some of those questions. I've got a ton of other questions from friends and family and people just kind of following this case since it is here in Florida, at least partially, which is one of the things we'll talk about. But before we get into it specifically, thanks everybody for watching the video. If you like this kind of content, you like the Gabby Petito story, you're going to follow it, hit the like button so I know to take more time to investigate this, look into it, see what some of the legal angles are and what could possibly happen. So I'll do more videos on it if you guys hit the like button and you show the interest in it. If you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We follow a bunch of different cases if there's interest in them. We're doing some R. Kelly videos. The Elizabeth Holmes trial, my partner Pete Sardis is doing a bunch of videos on, and they are crushing, and people seem to be loving those. So if you're interested in that case, go check out the videos that he did. They're all on our page. And, you know, we followed a ton of other stories and cases. We did a bunch on Ronnie O'Neill. We did some on Bill Cosby. We did some on Deshaun Watson. We did some on Ben Zobrist, Trevor Bauer. So we've done a bunch of stories that are in the news. So if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you subscribe to our page. But this video, we are going to focus on Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie because this is crazy, okay? This is an insane story that doesn't feel like it's going to have a good ending. I hope I'm wrong. But if you have any questions about this at all, put them in the comments because I try to go put them in the chat because I'm going to try to get to all of them after I just kind of break down what's happened over the last day. I mean, I think it's only been a day since we did that last video. So I'm going to just go through some of the stuff that we know now that has changed, right? So in that last video, they went on a vacation that was supposed to be a couple months long, right? Seemed like a happy couple when they went on that vacation. If you follow her on Instagram, which now she has hundreds of thousands of followers, I don't know what she had before all this happened. But they go on this vacation. Everything seems great, as it often does in the Instagram world. And they seem like a happy couple, right? Then he shows up back home with her van without her, lawyers up, doesn't talk to anybody, won't tell her family anything, isn't helpful or cooperative with law enforcement at all, right? Her family, 10 days after they had heard from her last, file a missing persons report, which is what we have. Law enforcement's been clear. It is not a criminal investigation. He is not a suspect in a crime. He was a person of interest in a missing persons case, right? So as far as we know, we think he's staying at his parents' house, the last video I did, and we think he's just not talking to anybody. The parents aren't talking to anybody. The lawyer's telling him to invoke their Fifth Amendment right, which is what's happening. But come to find out now, Brian Laundrie is also missing. And his parents said he's been missing for days. So if you look at what some of the just differences in what law enforcement is telling to the media, the North Port Police Department is saying, yeah, we know about his whereabouts. We know where he is. He's not talking to us. He's not cooperating. We've reached out, but he's at his parents' house, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, the FBI says they're doing an investigation because he is now missing. And the parents who didn't let cops come into their house and search their house, obviously, they didn't turn over his phone. They didn't turn over anything. Now they're letting law enforcement come into their house and see if they can find things to help them locate Brian Laundrie. So that's what's happening now. And there's all sorts of footage being played by the news stations of law enforcement going in and out, getting multiple evidence bags, gathering things to help them find Brian Laundrie, right? And that's what the focus on at this point. So again, and then now we're having like the battle of the lawyers and the media between the two families, Gabby's family and Brian's family. Gabby's family saying it's selfish for them to now want them to find Brian when we all know he's fine. He's hiding. He's not missing. All of law enforcement's resources and time and efforts should go into finding Gabby, not Brian. He came home. We know he's fine. He left on his own and decided to leave. So they're angry about that. Then you have the added layer that the family told law enforcement that Brian frequents this Carlton Reserve or something, which is 24,000 acres of woodlands. And now they're out there with RVs and drones and 5 different local law enforcement agencies out there trying to find Brian in these woods, who the spokesperson for North Park Police or whatever it is, North Port Police, said he could be out there for months depending on his skills. And he frequents that area, and people sleep out there all the time, and it's wet and it's hot and it's wooded and it gets dark every night, obviously, which makes it difficult to find people in this situation if they don't want to be found. So that's what they're dealing with now, right? Is he on the run? Does he want what makes a missing person, right? I mean, once it's reported, law enforcement has to look for him. If they didn't leave something saying I'm going in here for a week or a month or whatever it may be, then they become a missing person, which it seems like has happened to them. But it's weird because it seemed like the whole time we were hearing as the media, as outsiders, like, he won't talk. He's just sitting in there and he won't talk. And why isn't he helping? And it turns out maybe he's been gone for a while, right? And that could be problematic. Now, I've heard some reports that the lawyer for the Laundrie family turned over Brian's phone, but other reports saying they didn't. So I'm not sure if he did or not. Obviously, if your client is invoking his Fifth Amendment right, he's probably not letting them, look into his phone. They did confiscate and search the car because it was technically Gabby's car. So they were able to do that. Brian couldn't keep them from doing that. It was parked in front of Brian's parents' house, which is where it was driven. It also sounded like the spokesperson for law enforcement said that same van was driven to that reserve and then somehow it got back to the Laundrie house. But Brian wasn't in it. Brian stayed there. So did somebody drop him off? Did he drive there? Somebody come pick up the car? How does all that work? So that, seems problematic for them as well. It just doesn't seem like a normal thing to do if your girlfriend is missing and you care about her and you want to know. Now, if your girlfriend said, leave me here and don't tell anybody where I am, just go home, I need some time to myself, I mean, that's plausible, I guess. But again, he's invoking his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So anyways, it leaves a lot of us to speculate, right? And there's been a ton of theories out there. People think TikTok is going to solve this before law enforcement does, which in this day and age, maybe it will, who knows? Let's see what else. So the lawyer did say he did advise his clients and Brian to remain silent and not necessarily come out and talk. But today's day and age, it should be easy to gain a lot of information about this, right? There are a ton of Instagram pictures and you can get the metadata on that and see exactly where it was posted, when it was posted, when the pictures were taken. You can ping their phones with satellites to see where they are, credit card charges, gas stations, if they ate somewhere, based on the timeline of where their pictures are on Instagram, things like that. You should be able to get a pretty good timeline of where they've been, where the last time they were seen or heard from, right? So a lot of that. But then you have the issue of most of these places. So we've heard there's been thousands and thousands of tips or anonymous helps or leads or whatever it may be throughout this investigation. And none of it is direct first person eyewitness. I saw them at this restaurant. I saw them here. Some people think they saw the van or are not sure if they saw the van. And the reason for that is if you just look at their Instagram posts, they went to a lot of remote locations. They went camping. They slept in the back of the van. It's just nature, basically. So there's not a ton of people around, which makes sense as to why there wouldn't be a lot of witnesses to where they've been over the past few weeks. And then all of us by now, if you're following this case, saw the body cam footage when on this trip, they were pulled over or cops came up because there was some kind of domestic issue. Brian had scratches across his face. She admitted hitting him. They made them separate for the night. And Brian said things like, we've been together now on this trip for an extended period of time, and it's really weighing on our relationship and causing a lot of frustration, and we're fighting a lot. She's really anxious. She struggles with anxiety. And they kind of dealt it or decided it was kind of a mental health issue that she was dealing with. And then, the last Instagram post of Gabby, which said, Happy Halloween. And this is interesting from a legal perspective because people are saying, no, Brian probably made that. Her parents think maybe the last few texts that they got from her were actually from Brian and not from her. So this comes down to, back in the day or when we watched movies and saw crime experts come and talk about handwriting experts and how this is not somebody's signature, right? Well, now we actually have technical experts that can come and talk about the habit and mode and way people post on social media. Call them hashtag experts or content experts or whatever you want to call them. But people leave their calling card, people leave their signature on the way that they post on social media. And an expert will be called if there is a criminal investigation to see, is this the way Gabby did it? Are there any other posts similar to this? Or did she always leave long captions? Did she hashtag a bunch of things? Did she tag people? Was this completely different? And what does that prove, right? Because at the end of the day, you can have two signatures. They can look completely different in a case, and you can have an expert come say that's not the same signature because the way they wrote this was written by a left-handed person, whatever. But at the end of the day, the facts are decided and determined by the jury. So the same thing would happen here. A jury would determine whether or not this was true, even with these experts, based on the evidence that's presented before them. So now we're going to get into some questions, which I'm sure will bring up more facts. I'm going to go through some of the questions we had on the other video, some of the questions that were sent to me. Then we'll get to the chat questions. So make sure you put your questions that you have in the chat. And make sure if you haven't subscribed already to our page, jump over there and subscribe. We just passed 10K. We did giveaways the last 2 Fridays. We're doing another giveaway this next Friday. So if you're just jumping on board, you can enter that giveaway even if you haven't been here for the whole journey of the first 10,000. You can be part of the next 10,000. And we have 85% of people that watch the videos are not subscribed. So take a second, go subscribe before the end of this video and like this video if you want us to keep doing videos on the Petito case with all this craziness happening. All right, let's see here. All right, so the first question, and we've gotten this question in multiple forms. Will the parents get charged criminally for not telling the police that he was gone sooner? Or will the parents get charged with aiding and abetting for not forcing him to talk? Will the parents get charged for aiding and abetting for not letting cops search their house? Will the parents get charged for any of their involvement in hiding or protecting or doing something for their son, which kept him secluded from the outside world, the media, law enforcement, right? And the answer to that, for the most part, is no. There's nothing illegal about not letting a cop search your home. There's nothing illegal about letting your son stay at your house. There's nothing illegal about not telling the cops about the whereabouts of your son. There's nothing illegal about that, right? Now, where this can change is if they helped him hide a murder weapon, if they gave him money to escape when they knew he committed a crime. That's aiding and abetting after the fact, right? That's destruction of evidence. That's obstruction of justice, right? But it's not obstruction of justice just to let your kid stay at your house, not to tell the cops, when he leaves the house and when he comes back. Because again, he's not under surveillance, apparently. He's not a suspect in a criminal case. So there's nothing that forces the parents to do things like this. And the parents, as far as what we know right now, don't seem to have any criminal liability in this case. All right, next question. Is there any circumstance where a lawyer could break attorney-client privilege? There are some circumstances, but it usually has to do with if there's a dispute over what the lawyer did, if the client's making a bar complaint or something about the lawyer, but there's not. The privilege is the client's. Okay, that's important for people to understand. The privilege is the client. The client can waive attorney-client privilege anytime they want. But if the client does not allow the lawyer to waive it, the lawyer cannot waive it. So this lawyer cannot come out and say, okay, here's what I know, here's what happened, here's what he told me, he did it. Can't come out and waive something like that. There is some public policy arguments about, like, if a client tells you they planted a bomb that's going to, like, if a crime is going to occur in the future, then you have a duty to report it to law enforcement. But if he tells you about a crime that happened in the past, you cannot break attorney-client privilege and say, here's what he told me. And even with the crime in the future, sometimes it's kind of a gray area. So it's a good question, but usually you cannot break attorney-client privilege as an attorney. Does anything change in the attorney-client privilege relationship when a client is reported missing? No. Even when a client dies, the attorney-client privilege lives on. You still cannot break that attorney-client privilege. What is the difference between a person of interest and a suspect? So a person of interest is just somebody that may have some information on the case, like in a missing persons case. A person of interest can just be a witness. A suspect is obviously suspected of doing something wrong, or a criminal suspect. Okay, should the parents of Brian hire a lawyer? Can they be held responsible without, okay, blah, blah. Kind of the same type of question, but should they hire a lawyer? It sounds like this lawyer is representing the family. Both lawyers have kind of said they're speaking on behalf of the family. So it sounds like they may have a lawyer. If this is some sort of media stunt, are there legal ramifications for the couple? Okay, so that's a good question, because we know they were trying to make it, I guess, on social media, on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it may be. So if this was a big media stunt, is that illegal? And here is the this is the lawyer answer. It depends. There is a possibility that this was not illegal at all, because neither one of them asked for this, right? So if we think back to what we know, Gabby didn't ask for anybody to come looking for her, right? Brian didn't ask for anybody to go look for Gabby. Brian's not asking for anybody to look for him. So what have they done illegally to start this whole media explosion that all of us are talking about, all of us are thinking about? What have they done that's illegal? They've not talked to anybody, right? Theoretically, that's what it seems like right now. If this is a big stunt and it works in their favor, well, I don't think the world is going to be very happy about it. This is not the way we want people to get famous in this world, I hope. But if all you do is go missing, I don't think that's anything illegal. It's not like she said, please come find me, I need help. My fiance abandoned me, and then she's hiding now for this whole media explosion. This is just happening. And all we know for sure is neither of them have said anything to anybody. Now, if they lied to their parents, or their parents are in on it and their parents are building this up and keep going on media and push it, then of course, yes, that's filing a false police report, kind of. It could just be fraud. It could be all sorts of things. It could be a conspiracy. There can be some criminal charges, but based on what we know that these two individuals actually did in this case, doesn't seem like any criminal action has been taken. People asking, are the parents going to be accomplices? Not necessarily. Why did they not come sooner? I think he's talking about the parents of Brian. Why did they not come sooner to tell the cops he had gone missing? Again, I don't know. We don't know why they did a lot of things, but there's nothing illegal about it. And there's no subpoena. There's nothing legally forcing them to disclose this information to law enforcement. So basically, you make that determination as to when you become worried about somebody's whereabouts, then you declare them missing, then you report it, right? That's really what it comes down to. Okay, so a lot of things can happen from here on out. Law enforcement, they have given a lot of interviews. They say it's not a criminal investigation. They say they're putting all these resources. One of the things that makes this so difficult, missing persons cases when they've been missing for days and days, are more difficult every day that goes by. But what makes a case like this exponentially more difficult is the multiple jurisdictions and multiple law enforcement agencies that are involved. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, which is just, you saw when the local police said, yeah, we know where he is. The FBI's like, no, you don't. He's missing, right? One doesn't know what the other's doing. And you have law enforcement agencies potentially across the country from where he's been driving, where they've been going here, there, and everywhere on all these stops on their weeks and months long trip. So it's very difficult to try to put all this and synthesize all together. Now the FBI getting involved, hopefully they can run point and kind of see what's going on. But that's the really difficult part about this, is all the jurisdiction, all the law enforcement agencies all across the country now are getting involved. It's not just isolated to one state, one county, one jurisdiction, one spot, one law enforcement agency. So that's really difficult. I also just wanted to dispel one theory of like the zone of death or whatever, that somebody on TikTok came out and said, oh, he could have just committed a crime there and you can't get a jury there because it's such a small jurisdiction and nobody lives within a country mile. I mean, because this is happening all over the country in different states and the FBI is involved, they could charge him federally. And he can be charged federally for this. So I wouldn't worry about things like that. There are tons of theories going on out there and people doing their own investigations. And it's interesting to think about and interesting to talk about. So let's see what questions you guys have. I'm going to start going through the chat now. If I don't get to your question, sorry. I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can. All right, let's see here. If you haven't subscribed already, go subscribe. This is what we do on this channel. We just talk through cases. We talk about people's legal rights. We talk about what might happen, and we answer questions. That's what makes it fun. All right, let's see here. So people kind of giving their takes. Terry, in my opinion, I think they got into a physical push shove, and Gabby fell off a cliff and hit her head, and he panicked and cover up. I mean, that's really stretching, and a lot of people are stretching, but it could have happened. Elizabeth, she's betting that he'll be charged with a serious crime, aka murder. And yep, what's up? It seems like there's just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Who knows? I mean, that's the point, is nobody knows what's going on, which is also why as a criminal defense lawyer, you tell your client just to keep his mouth shut, doesn't need to say anything, because nobody knows what happened and what's going on. Yeah, so this was interesting. So Strong. Now the police let a mob trample a possible crime scene. So I don't know if I don't know which crime scene you're talking about, but if you're talking about the house, letting those people outside the house screaming at him, yelling at him, all that stuff, that doesn't ever end well. Like, when have you known somebody to be screamed at, berated, destroyed on the media, and come out and say, okay, now I'm going to do the right thing, right? You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. So I don't think that's a great idea. I do usually have a moderator. I don't think I have one for this one, so I apologize. We'll have to cut it short if it gets too crazy. So Brianna, he should be found within 72 hours unless he's off the grid. Well, that's the interesting thing, is they made it sound like he frequents doing things like that and might be some kind of a survivalist off like one of these shows we've seen, like Naked and Afraid or something, where they can last 30 days with nothing out there. And he left with his camping or hiking backpack and his waistband, which I'm not really sure what that is, like a climbing waistband or something. So he could go off the grid for more than 72 hours is what it sounds like. All right, Brianna says we don't want no mods here. Well, usually we have one if things get crazy. I don't know what they exactly do, but we don't have one today. So, all right. So Angel Eyes, he came home alone, lawyered up, then went ghost. Seems guilty to me of something, right? And it's important because on this channel, what we love to do is discuss what potential jurors would think about this case. And you guys could all be potential jurors in your jurisdiction, right? And you could know about this. And law enforcement can talk about the fact that, now they can't talk about his right to remain silent or invoking his Fifth Amendment right, but they can say you came back alone without her, right? And that can be used against him to make him look guilty. And I think some people would think he's guilty just because of that. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, so Benjamin, there's been zero evidence found and 2 people searching with all the resources of law enforcement. It could be a hoax. That's like the most common thought, is that they're doing it for social media, fame. It's a lot of resources, but when you think 2 young people's lives are at risk, that's what law enforcement's there for, to hopefully find them. We'll see. All right, Maxine, is it illegal for him to have told his parents the truth of what happened, let him escape, and withhold the truth when they talk to the police? So everybody's got a Fifth Amendment right, right? So if the parents don't want to say anything because they could criminally implicate themselves, then yes, they can invoke the Fifth Amendment right. There's also, I can't remember what it's called. We used to call it mommy's law in law school, where you don't have to rat out your own son. So there, like I said, there are some ways in which they can be criminally implicated, but it doesn't seem like that right now. Daring D's, wasn't trying to be rude, just crossed my mind after seeing his behavior, lack thereof. That's fine. I would hope all of us can just be cordial in here and respectful and talk about what's going on. A lot of people don't know what's going on, and a lot of people go down rabbit holes based on the information that we have, and a lot of it, and there's a lot of this could be a hoax. So, Brianna, right now they're treating Brian as if he's a suspect. I don't know who they is. If you're talking about the media, absolutely you're true. Generally, the media is treating him as a suspect, which I don't think is necessarily fair, because law enforcement's not even doing that yet. And, if law enforcement has been clear over and over again saying he is not a suspect. So we'll see. Strong, the media sucks either way. I don't disagree. Yeah, Tina. Brian is in a 200, I thought they said 24,000 acre, but whatever, huge park in Florida. They're searching for him right now. They have good intel. Yeah, but even the law enforcement spokesman said it could take days or weeks for them to find him in there. So Elizabeth, sure. Just find this stuff interesting. We're just talking about it. It's all very sad. Yeah, they're trying to paint. I don't know. I don't really know. I feel like some people are not painting Brian as abusive. They're saying she actually was the one that was aggressor for him, and she's the one that had to be separated from him. So I don't know. So the scratches on his face make you think that he's capable of harming her. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely an indication that they could get into a physical altercation. I don't think I would say that it makes me think he would harm her necessarily, but it's interesting. So Tina, this is an interesting point too. I go missing every day. It's not illegal, right? And I'm assuming you're being facetious, but it is true, right? They're adults. They don't have to tell their parents where they're going. They don't have to return a text message to their parents. They can throw their phone away. They can turn their phone off. They can do whatever they want. So just because they haven't responded or because they're missing doesn't mean something illegal has happened, which is why we cannot convict and crucify Brian at this point. Now, if evidence comes out that he did it, absolutely throw the book at him. But right now, we cannot be a country that does stuff like that. We can't let the media do that. Can't let TikTok do that. But we should want to figure out what happened, right? It's important to figure out what happened. Yeah, Leslie, there's all sorts of ways you can ping a cell phone. You can ping a cell phone with text, calls, posting on Instagram, going on the internet, all sorts of ways you can ping a cell phone. All right, let's see what else we have. So Lauren, this is good. This is a great comment. We're talking to a lawyer, not a psychic. How would he know why the parents do what they do? Yeah. So I don't know why people do what they do, right? We're trying to just talk about the facts that we do know and figure out how they may apply and what legally could happen. That's all we're talking about. Yes. So Lorraine, news says the FBI is removing property from the home to help locate Brian. Is that specific to him? What if they find evidence regarding Gabby? Is that protected or can it be used? So this is where it gets kind of like a gray area because there's not a criminal investigation going on. So the only things that law enforcement can gather when they say come into our house as Brian's parents and find things that may help you find Brian. So that's what they're looking for. That's what they can gather. If they see, something that is obviously like a bloody shirt or something like that, that's obviously indicative of criminal activity, then yes, the plain sight rule may apply and they can gather that. But they can't go searching in the drawers for things that have to do with Gabby, right? They're focused on Brian. That's why they're there. And it's weird, but that's kind of the way the law is. Unless the parents said, sure, if you find something that can help you locate Gabby, go for it. But they're not investigating Gabby's murder, right? If they were, they could look completely differently. They could have a search warrant that specifies what they can find, what they can take. Right, Philip Bender. Elizabeth was saying that she said that in the next comment that Gabby scratched his face, but she was saying that's indicative that she thinks he could respond in abuse because obviously there's physical altercations happening. So CS is leaving someone you are with out in the wilderness even murder. Like say he just abandoned her 50 miles into the middle of nowhere, right? That's the point. Like if he just left her and he doesn't know where she is, maybe that's why he's scared. He doesn't want to tell anybody that they got in a fight. He took the car and left. Could be grand theft auto, right? It's technically her car, so he could be charged with like stealing her car or something, but it's not murder. Now, if she ends up dying, there could be other implications, right? Of did he do something to advance her dying, right? There are some crimes that could come with that or some civil charges for sure, or abandonment and things like that, but it's not murder necessarily. So new Chris, what if his lawyer knows his whereabouts? He does not have to say anything. In fact, he shouldn't say anything. All right, let's see what else we got. LeBrenda Dobbs, who are these people and what's happening? Two young kids in their 20s went on a road trip for a couple weeks or months together. The boyfriend showed up back home at his parents' house without the girlfriend, and now nobody can contact or find the girlfriend. So, Tina, if you say so, if it'll only take days, not weeks. I don't know. I'm just going off what the spokesperson for the local law enforcement agency said. Okay, so Erna, have they ruled out any connection to the other murders near where they camped? So there was the murder of the other couple right near that camp, right in the same timeline when Brian and Gabby were there. And they have not ruled out a connection, but they haven't really made mention of any connection, right? There's some statement about a creepy guy that the couple saw, and they said if we end up murdered, it was this creepy guy. There's nothing to indicate that that's Brian. Again, this is where I think people can start rolling down the hill and building the snowball. And I don't think there's any real connection except for timeline, right? The timeline is there. So, I mean, we'll see. Again, if they start to get a connection and Brian becomes a suspect in that murder, then we can have warrants, we can have searches, we can have all sorts of stuff if he actually becomes a suspect in a murder, even if it's that murder and not the murder of Gabby. So, John, technically they have legal differences, and there's different things law enforcement can do based on what that is. And if a criminal trial happens and they're ever asked if there were any other suspects, right? So if you think back to other cases where, at first we thought it was this guy and it ended up being this guy that committed the murder. Well, reasonable doubt has been created in other criminal cases when they say, isn't it true that John Smith was a suspect before you arrested our client, Tim Miller? And they say, well, yes, John Smith was a suspect. We ruled him out because of his alibi or whatever it may be. So you don't want to call somebody a suspect before they're actually a suspect being investigated for this crime. Usually you lean on the side of precaution and you wait longer than it actually is true to call someone a suspect, right? Yeah, this is an interesting one, Marlene. So if his parents say he spends time in the woods all the time after 4 days of not knowing he was gone, well, no. I don't think that it was 4 days of them not knowing he was gone. I think they knew he was leaving and they knew he was going to this park. But when he didn't come back 4 days later is when they said, okay, something may be wrong. And I think they're probably thinking maybe he hurt himself, right? I think that's something they might be worrying about, even if he did nothing wrong, because of all this crap that's happening surrounding him, because of all those people in their front yard, because of the media. That's what we have to be careful about in the media, right? None of us know what happened. So these people to be so sure about what happened to the detriment of a 20-something-year-old kid's life. I mean, I think we need to take some responsibility and think about how we're acting and what we're saying, right? We don't know what's happening. We want Gabby to be okay. We want Gabby to be found, but we need to not crucify people in public because we pretend to be a society that cares about people's mental health and cares about being, there for people and there for your fellow man and being empathetic. Yet when the media smells blood, everybody just dives in and destroys. So I think that's kind of what happened is after so many days, his parents became concerned. They weren't concerned when he initially left, is what it seems like. But again, speculating. Eddie Paul, sure. I mean, that's possible that, the murder of the newlyweds is connected to Brian Gabby and it wasn't Brian at all, but they got attacked. But again, some people would say, then why wouldn't he just call the cops? Why would he drive home by himself if they both got attacked and something happened to Gabby? Where is this? Rock bottom. The evidence is going to show that you're a hell of a lawyer. Thank you, rock bottom. Brings us back to our Ronnie O'Neill days. All right, let's see here. What else we got? Freakout station. I have seen other missing person cases where the partner is the first suspect. What makes this one different? The family can sue the city for incompetence. So, freakout station, before we go there, right? You're talking about, I think what you mean is missing person that turns into a murder investigation. We don't have a murder investigation here. I would be willing to bet with all my legal prowess that if this turns into a murder investigation, Brian is suspect number one, right? But we don't have that yet. That's why he's not the first suspect, because they don't have a suspect yet. That's really what the change is here, is that he's not a suspect because there's not a murder investigation. That's basically as simple as it is. And it's, you can call it a legal technicality, I guess, if you want to. Tyler Smith, what do you think happened? Or is there not enough info for you to have an opinion? I mean, I think that some of these conspiracy theories are plausible, right? Something happened to her where she accidentally hurt herself. He freaked out, came home, and, just stayed in his parents' house and hunkered down. All right. I think that's plausible, where he didn't mean to do anything, or he maybe wasn't even involved at all. Maybe she tripped, fell off the cliff, and he thought, well, somebody's going to think I did it. And if you look at the media and how everybody's talking about him, maybe he's not wrong about that. And he's thinking, we're alone out here. They know we just had this domestic dispute, so nobody's going to believe me that she tripped and fell over a cliff. They're going to think I pushed her or threw her or whatever in some kind of fight, and he freaked out. I think that that's plausible. I don't know what happened. Obviously, he could have done something horrible to her, and now he's just hiding. I mean, I think that's plausible as well. All right, Brandon, Gabby was a domestic abuser and Brian was her victim. Watch the body cam. She has severe mental illness and likely killed herself. I don't know if I would say she likely killed herself, but I think that's another plausible thing that could have happened. She killed herself. Maybe, we've seen some weird stories and some sick stories. Like, you remember the story where the girl got convicted of texting her boyfriend, current boyfriend, who wanted to kill himself. She encouraged him to and pushed him over the edge and ended up getting convicted. We've seen some weird stuff. Maybe Gabby told him she wanted to kill herself and he didn't stop her, and now he's worried he's going to get arrested like that girl did. You don't know what's going to happen. I think it's clear that he freaked out and, didn't know what to do, and that's kind of where we're at. All right. Vicky, have you read her parents' letter to his? I haven't read the letter, but I've seen a ton of their press conferences and how they're saying, we just want to find our daughter. Please help us. We can't believe you're doing this. They're trying to guilt him. They tried to be nice at first, then they tried to guilt him. They tried to strong arm him. They're trying everything, and I can't blame them one bit. I had somebody say, maybe Brian's in the basement of the parents' house and they're pulling out one tooth at a time until he tells them where Gabby is. At this point, like when you're thinking about the parents of a 20-something-year-old girl that goes missing and you think somebody has information and they're not sharing it, from the parents' point of view, I understand why they, just can be as horrified as anybody. That's more than understandable. Thank you, Vicky. If you guys are not subscribed to our channel, The Lawyer You Know, please take a second to go subscribe. Huge percentage of you guys watching are not subscribed, so it helps us out when you subscribe. You can get alerts of when we're going to do videos like this. We're going to have fun as much as we can talking about the law and stuff, while realizing 99% of what we talk about is super serious, super sad, super heavy. But we're just talking about it. We're being respectful. We like diversity of thought here. We like discussion. We don't like name callers and people that go crazy in the chat and stuff like that. We just like to discuss this up and see what people are thinking. You guys get a lawyer's point of view. I get potential jurors' point of view. We all can learn and kind of grow and try to be better people and not be part of the media that we all hate. All right. Yeah, Sam Kinkoff. After 48 hours, the chances of them being alive decreases. While that is true, it's different in every case, and it's definitely different with adults versus children, and it's different when they are potentially survivalists or going out into the middle of nowhere to not be found on purpose. If he tried to get on a plane to Aruba, could the FBI stop him? I don't know if they've flagged him or anything like that. We haven't heard if they flagged him. Based on what they're saying, if he's not a suspect in a criminal case, I don't think they could really stop him from leaving the country if he wanted to. But if he had his passport and he got a plane ticket and went to another country, they would be able to track that and know where he went. Okay, so I guess some people are saying the cops were incompetent. And Fanita Rojas said police weren't incompetent. They're just doing their job. The media should be sued. So again, I think the police are doing what they should do. They're putting all their resources into finding people. If they were investigating a murder without knowing a murder's there, that would be a waste of resources, and that could potentially be incompetent because they should be trying to find her, not prove that she was murdered. You know, like that would be the waste of resources because we don't know that yet. So Tyler, I think this is a sentiment most people have. Dude, come on. If he did nothing wrong, he would have went home and said something. This is his fiance we're talking about. Generally, I would agree with you, but it doesn't mean he did something wrong necessarily. What if he just knows something that he's scared is going to get him in trouble and he feels like he didn't do anything? There's a lot of different options here, right? But I think most people would agree with you. Yeah, WZG, this is we went through this. Yeah, could absolutely be a publicity stunt. Absolutely. That would be sad. Hopefully it's not. All right. So Daisy Song. This has not been asked yet, so don't apologize. What happens if they got in a fight? He drove off, left her to get a little space, went back to get her, and she was gone. What's his legal liability? None. She is an adult. If she wanted to leave, frankly, if he would have grabbed her and thrown her in the car, he could have more legal liability, right? So, I mean, frankly, if he dropped her off somewhere and then she decided to leave, she's an adult. She can do that. All right, let's see what else we have here. Any other questions? Give me your questions in the chat mostly if you can. So T-Stop, I'm not going to put your comment up just because there's some profanity in it. But if he's innocent, why is he not saying anything is what you're asking, right? And we have seen lots of times, and we have gone through lots of cases here where people get accused of crimes. They come out and try to tell what happened, and they end up getting arrested. And even if they're innocent or not guilty at the end of the trial, their life is ruined. Their life is over. So just because you're innocent doesn't mean that your words can't get you convicted or can't get you arrested. It's important. It's important to know that. CS, if she for some reason was just never found, would there never be a murder investigation? Probably not. I mean, think about it. If I was going to tell you beyond a reasonable doubt, we're putting somebody's life on the line at trial. CS, you are the juror. Here is what I'm going to explain to you. They went on a trip together. He came home alone, and that's all we have. We don't have his statements. We don't have a single witness saying they saw them together out there. If he doesn't take the stand, there's no body. We don't even know that she's dead. How can you be sure he murdered? How can you be sure it was even him, first off? And second, how can you be sure he murdered if we don't have anybody's body? No murder weapon, no nothing. How do you convict somebody of murder in that situation? That's what a prosecutor would think of. I've been a prosecutor before, so I know. They have to have all the evidence, all their ducks in a row before they're going to charge and try to convict somebody, especially for something as serious as murder. So Tyson's asked a bunch of times, like, where can they stop him from going? Right now, they couldn't stop him from going anywhere, pretty much. right. Any other questions here? So this case is similar to the Susan and Josh Powell case. I'm not sure what case that is. Scott Peterson case, now it's got a little bit of that in it, but Scott Peterson had so many other twists and turns. Yeah, Elizabeth, it's true. I mean, we pretend that we're a certain way as a society until we get the gossip, right? Everybody wants to gossip and just be a part of that. And I think we need to be careful about what we do and what we say. So Vicky, if it's a stunt, can they go to jail for that? So we talked a lot about that in the beginning already. At this point, the two actual missing people haven't said anything. They haven't done anything to create this media attention, right? So technically, no. So Bex, yeah, parents could have been giving him a head start by not reporting him missing for a few days. That's true. All right, what else do we have here? Any other questions here? So here, Alice, innocent people don't run away and hide. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's why it's important that we have this diversity of thought and we have everybody in here, lawyers, non-lawyers, people that have experience in this stuff and don't. We have some law enforcement officers that come in the chat sometimes. Why this is important is because what Alice is saying, some people believe and think, and a jury on this trial, if it were to get there, would absolutely think that the fact that he ran away means he's guilty. Yeah. I mean, Fanita Rojas, yeah, if that happened, I can see why he would come home and not tell anybody anything. And that would be my advice to him if I was his criminal defense lawyer. So, Nadav, do you think there's a chance of her still being alive? I'm from Israel, by the way. Have no idea what it's like to do trips in that area. So they seem to be in some real remote areas, sightseeing, nature, stuff like that, sleeping in tents, sleeping in the van. I definitely think there's a chance she's alive still. I definitely think there's a chance she's alive. The weirdest part is, the no contact in the phone and that stuff. So, but if he did really like abandon her, right? I think he could potentially get some criminal charges, some different ways there. But if he abandoned her and she doesn't have a phone charge or stuff like that, and she's out in the middle of nowhere, that could be, pretty tough. And I don't know how long she could survive like that. There's just so many things that happen that we don't necessarily know. Lily, thanks. Touchdown, Bama, 8th play, first drive. We love to hear that. And I'm on here missing the beginning of the Florida State game, which I'm okay with because it's been really rough to watch this year. All right. All right. Any other questions here? That's right, WZG. We're a basketball school now. That's right. Thank you. This is the kind of uplifting stuff I need in the comments on a Saturday afternoon when my team's probably down 14 points. All right. What else we got? That's interesting, Jim Roberts. I haven't even thought about this yet. Has anyone aside from his parents verified that he actually came back to Florida? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If anybody else knows, let us know in the comments. Did people see him get out of the van? Or, I mean, I feel like there's got to be something else out there than just what his parents have said, Or did his parents even say that? That's funny, right? I think of myself as a critical thinker, and I never thought to think, do we know that he's actually here? I assume there's some corroborating evidence of that. Daily smiles, it depends on what country he goes to, what kind of agreements we have with that country. I don't know what their YouTube page is. Some people are asking that. If you know, you can put it in the chat. Yeah, so Tyler, I read at least one article that said the cops did have his phone. I don't know how they would have got it. If his lawyer turned it over, that seems baffling to me for a client that you've advised and has invoked their Fifth Amendment right. He's not talking to anybody, then you give over their phone. I don't know about all that, but I did read something that said that, and then I read others that said they didn't, so I'm not positive. So Brian Ditas, can they file a motion to compel to get him to talk? No. You can't do anything to violate or breach or go around somebody's Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. If they lied about Brian leaving, then the parents would be on the hook for lying to the FBI and paying the current search for him. Well, he's not there. So you mean if they lied about, him leaving and being a missing person? Sure, that's filing a false police report, basically. Let's see here what else we've got. So do you think the FBI screwed up by not keeping eyes on him? So again, they talked about this. They said we haven't necessarily been surveilling him or following him everywhere he goes because he's just a person of interest. He's not a suspect. So I don't know. I mean, and this is tough. I don't know. Would they have found him if they were following him? It sounds like it. They would have followed him into the woods. But then again, you got to have a reason to do that. You can't just follow people. People have constitutional rights, and they can't just follow every person that might be a witness in a case or a witness in a missing persons case. Alice, you support the Saints. There's one saint in particular that I support. So, Teddy Surf, I have a question. Let's say he got fed up and left her alone at one of the parks and drove home, and she died as either a direct or indirect result of that. Is he legally liable for something like manslaughter? This is one of those, did he have a total disregard for human life and safety? Did he know or should have known that she was going to be harmed? It's going to go into his mens rea and what happened, right? So yeah, I think he could have some liability in that situation. Absolutely. New Chris, can the cops track his social media to find him? Absolutely. It's like one of the first places cops and prosecutors go nowadays. They go to your social media. They have all sorts of different ways to get it. They can see what you posted, when you posted, where it pinged, who commented, who typed in on it, who those people are. They can look into your friends lists. They can do a deep dive into your social media, especially if they think some criminal activity has gone on. All right, let's see here. Sophie loves, we have a duty to believe he's innocent until proven guilty. He is. Winter Walker, it seems like no body, no crime. True. Okay, so Haley said during the police brief, they said they had proof of him being at the house. Okay, I knew that had to be there, but it was just interesting to me that I hadn't even thought about that. I just assumed, I guess. I do not play hockey, Daily Smiles. Thanks, Cloud Tagius. The preponderance of the evidence, it shows that those locks are luscious, my dude. Thank you. So Moon Princess said they found it very odd that they're calling him missing. It's a missing persons report, just where you don't know somebody's whereabouts for a certain amount of time and you become worried about their safety. Yeah, so the car was in front of the parents' house. They know that, but I don't know. Do we have video footage of him getting out of the car that he drove it there? I don't know. I also heard the law enforcement spokesperson say the car was at that Carlton Reserve or whatever it's called where he's at now, but the car's not there anymore. So it made its way back to the parents' house. How? So Jonna, they don't have their phones, but the FBI has access to the info of their phones. So there's only certain access they can have if they don't actually have the phones themselves. And that's like the pinging we're talking about and any data that their like Verizon or whoever, their phone company, whatever data they have, like a text message or a call log, they can have some stuff like that, but not everything that's on the phone. So Nicole Post, what was his unlawful use of the vehicle? All right, what else do we have? Winter Walker, thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the nice comment. Anybody out there is watching now, please subscribe to our page. We like to just discuss legal cases, get into it, talk about what you guys would think as potential jurors, what I would think as a lawyer, been a prosecutor, been a defense attorney, I'm a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer. So hit a bunch of different sides of this stuff. I'm a trial lawyer, so we know about these investigations. We know about trials. We do a bunch of them. And we like to hear from you guys what cases in the media, in the news, past or present, that you want to hear about. So you can post them on our community page in the comments, and I try to get to a bunch of them. And if the video gets the interaction, the likes, and people want to hear and talk about it, then I'll do more of it. So a lot of these questions I'm not going to click and answer again, but if you guys watch the beginning of the video, you'll see what happens if they don't find the body. You'll see what happens if, or what I think about getting a lawyer before she's reported missing. There's a lot of questions on here that we have answered a couple times. Lethal Bacon. I've seen so many of your videos that I'm basically a Supreme Court justice now. I love it. I love it. We need to save this comment. Yeah, and Sailboat RN, could it be that he's protecting Gabby? And that's what one of the cases I compared it to is if she did whatever she wanted to do, whatever that may have been, hurting herself, running away, disappearing, whatever, and they agreed that he wasn't going to tell anybody. I mean, crazier things have happened. That is the one saint. Yes, yes. And I did not expect Jameis Winston's name to come up in this chat, but I'm so happy it did. Vicky, yes, please make sure you like and subscribe. So, New Chris, if I see him, do I have to tell law enforcement? No, you don't necessarily have to. You don't ever really have to tell law enforcement something, right? They always ask. They want people to come forward. They want people to give them information, especially for the betterment of society, to help find Gabby, to help find him, to help because his parents want to find him. All that is important, but no, it's not illegal if you don't. All right, let's see what else we got. Brianna, I figured out how to just bounce in myself. Michaela, do you think his parents are in on it? I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it. Cloutageous, you're the best. Love this channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Lady A, thank you for subscribing. Alice, thank you. I think so too. So maybe we'll get some more from this video. Can the lawyer legally represent Brian if he never physically saw or talked to him? That's very interesting. He has to at least talk to him. I don't have to see him in person or anything like that, but he does have to actually talk to him and understand that he represents him, and they have to have that agreement. Amanda, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, go do it. Emmy, I'm glad you're here then. If you love discussing stuff like this and you have your own case, let's talk about some legal stuff. Can't give you legal advice over the YouTube videos. Anybody has a real legal question, you'll have to hit me up by email and we can talk, because there's an attorney-client relationship there, especially if it's car accident, med mal cases, slip and fall, nursing home negligence, wrongful death. That's what I do specifically. But even these types of cases, family law, other things in our firm also does criminal defense. My dad runs that department though. You can feel free to email us if you want to talk or want to get to talk to a lawyer like this. I'm happy to see if I can connect you as well. We're the lawyer you know comes from, the idea behind the name The Lawyer You Know is I've got friends and family members who text me and ask me stuff all the time, and clients obviously, that they have a lawyer that's just one click or chat or text or email away. I want to be like that to more people, because more people need to know what their legal rights are. So we're going to have fun. We're going to discuss this stuff. A lot of people like to shoot the crap sitting on the couch while watching a movie. Would that really happen in court? We got asked that so much. My dad did his whole life too. So I decided to just make a YouTube channel out of it, and it's been really fun. But people also have real questions that affect them, and I would not advise doing it in the comments or in the chat. Send me an email. It's in all the details and info in all of the videos that we have, and we're happy to talk to you more about it. Let's see what else we got. So I didn't see what Nicole's question was, but the vehicle was in her name. Does that make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference. That's why the cops could confiscate it and search it. But it doesn't mean that a criminal act has occurred. The vehicle was not reported stolen. Nobody said that Gabby said he couldn't use the video. He was seen driving it in the police body cam footage, and she seemed to consent to him driving it. So while we can, guess and hypothesize that maybe he stole the vehicle or killed her and took it, and that would be illegal, we don't have those details or facts yet. Right. And Mary Camp, boom. She's basically a Supreme Court justice. Heather, thank you for liking and subscribing. Derek Dees, I found you during the Screaming Ronnie trial and sub then. Good. So you're an OG. Been here for a long time then. That's fun. So Nadav, yes, I usually do. Most of it is criminal. That's what most people care about. There's some wrongful death cases or some injury cases that are pretty big too, and some civil cases. So yeah, and they're ongoing investigations like these. I referenced some at the very beginning of the video, and if you want to go check out our page, it's The Lawyer You Know. You can check out all the videos that we've done, and you can see kind of how we do it, what our theme usually is, or what our, I don't know, the way we do things. You can see it. And we get most of our content from you guys listening and what you care about and want to hear about. So hindering an investigation is obstruction of justice. There's some elements of that in here if, again, a criminal investigation happens, but it doesn't seem like anybody's doing any of that yet. So Maxine, I actually think there's a lot of evidence that he is a permitted driver. The body cam footage is going to be, exhibit number one for him to say he was allowed to drive that vehicle. Bex, subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you. The email is lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And I am in Florida, but we have contacts of people we work with and cases we handle all over the state. We do a lot of federal work as well. I'm all over the state, all over the country. We do a lot of federal work as well. But most of what we do is in Florida or in the Southeast region. But I mean, we just finished a case in Utah about a week ago. We have a case in Washington, D.C. We've got a case in Minnesota. We've got cases in New Jersey, all over the place. Tina, you look awfully young to be a lawyer. Are you BSing us? Been a lawyer a little over 8 years now. A little over 8 years. Partner in a law firm. I used to look younger, if you can believe it. If you go to my YouTube page and like see our really old videos, I just saw one from like 2013. It's amazing how young I look then. Think I look young now. But I'm okay with that. Appreciate it. Well, Daisy Song, if you got a car accident injury problem, shoot us an email. Happy to talk to you about it. I don't know what a HUM traffic victim is. I mean, homicide, HOM. Oh, human trafficking, maybe a human trafficking victim. We have handled some of those cases on both sides. Feel free to shoot me an email. Again, if it's specifically about your case, feel free to shoot me an email. Leslie Renee, we practice law in Florida primarily, but all across the country. Winter Walker, Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, baby. That's right. All federal judges. Eric McDowell, thank you so much for subscribing. So Tyson, no, it seems like she owned the van, but it's not theft because he was a permitted driver, at least so we think. Robert Lloyd, so we speculated a little bit. Somebody asked me what I thought. Some accident or something bad could have happened that he got scared, came back, got a lawyer. Like maybe she tripped and fell. Maybe she told him not to tell anybody what she was going to do, disappear, hurt herself, whatever it may be. There's lots of reasons he can get a lawyer besides I went and killed my fiance. Not saying he didn't. I'm just saying that there's lots of reasons. Heather Willis, just finished my late husband's wrongful death suit. And after 4.5 years, I basically hate all lawyers. If you listen to our intro video, which we don't put on every video, it says most people hate lawyers. I try to dispel that. There are bad apples in every profession, but everybody's different, and lawyers can do a lot of good as well, in my opinion. Phoenix, don't do a citizen's arrest of Brian. No, bad idea. New Chris, the media picks and chooses what cases to pursue. Absolutely. Maxine, yes, free consultations, absolutely. Especially if you find us on YouTube and you let me know on YouTube, or you let me know when you email me or call into our office that you found us on YouTube. Our number is 727-441-9030. Absolutely free consultation. Nothing you need to worry about. I will do everything I can to help you, point you in the right direction. Now, some people hate lawyers because sometimes we say there's nothing we can do. You know, there's only certain cases where we can do certain things. But I'll do everything I can to see if I can help you, guide you in the right direction, or at least get you connected to a person who can. Yeah, Henry Beadle, this is something we can't know how they make money. They stayed in hotels and motels too. I have no idea, but it does seem interesting that two people would just be able to leave and live like that for that long period of time that they were planning on being on this trip. Tyson, thank you. Glad you're subscribed now. Follow along with us. Let us know what you think. So Alice, will Brian's disappearance and silence make his life harder if this all goes to court? So his silence cannot be held against him and argued by the prosecution that he's guilty because he was silent, right? That can't be held against him. Now, the fact that he left or fled or things like that, they can bring that to the jury's attention. It's going to be up to the jury. Oh, good. Florida State's down 14-0. so it could be left up to a jury to see whether or not, they think that makes them look guilty. Sunnyside Thoughts, happy to cover it. The email address is lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And it's if there's any issues, our website is www.tragoslaw.com, TRAGOSLAW.com. So you can find our email addresses and all sorts of ways to contact us on there as well. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Any more questions before we sign off today? So Z cultures, I'm not saying that somebody can't be charged with murder without a body. It's just very unusual, right? Very, very unusual and difficult to prove. But they've proven it in the past, especially if they have some indication that they made the body disappear one way or the other, and they actually have evidence of that and can prove that. Sure, they can do that. But in this situation, there's just no evidence for them to charge him with murder yet, as far as we know. So Fun Bunny Sweat. So a lawyer cannot, as part of our job, we cannot come out and tell the crimes our client has committed in the past and told us about. We can't be a lawyer anymore, basically, if you do stuff like that. Tina, that's true. Most people hate lawyers because they don't understand the judicial system or how the laws work. I agree. It's tough, but that's a lawyer's job to try to explain it to the client. Not always easy, though. So Tyson is interesting. They can be compelled, they can be subpoenaed as witnesses to testify under oath. But if they think that they were harboring a fugitive, as some people said, or obstructing justice, or if something they said would incriminate themselves, then they could invoke their own Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So theoretically, they're not going to be made to talk. I did. Leonora, I did. Sorry, I didn't see it earlier. Yes, I did. Tyler, see a lot of people asking for the same thing. I did do that. Thank you, Henry. Looking forward to the live interactions as well with you. Yeah. Winter Walker is going to be following the Erica Jane situation. That's crazy. This is a good question. So Shane Fitz, is the lawyer representing both Brian and his parents? Would that be a conflict? It could. Absolutely, it could. But in most situations, you can have a conflict waiver where both sides waive a conflict. They know a conflict may arise and they waive it knowingly because they want everybody to come together. They're going to work together. They're going to be a joined kind of defense. But if you do represent multiple parties and a conflict pops up, you can't pick which party you're going to keep representing. You have to withdraw from all of the cases. So that's an interesting, just kind of legal tidbit. Daring D's, please hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. 453 in the chat, only 199 likes. Hit it. Appreciate all you guys. So Allison Beck, but he can't. Like you're saying, shouldn't he be questioned? The cops did try to question him. He said no. So they can't force him to talk. They can't. So Scott P, somebody mentioned it earlier that if he's going out camping and he's that type of survivalist type, then maybe it's not that weird that he's gone for 3 days. There are some people that are gone for multiple days at a time all the time. All right. I think we're going to call it here. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in the chat, jumping on the lives, kind of a random thing to do on a Saturday, but this stuff is just blowing up and it seems so crazy. I'll definitely be following this case. Hopefully we get more information and can talk about it more. And, it's been a lot of fun, as always, with you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment, ask the questions, keep us involved. Let us know cases that you're interested in. It was a lot of fun, guys. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully they find Gabby. Hopefully they find Brian. Hopefully this was all just a misunderstanding. That's all we've got from the lawyer today, and we'll be back later for you guys.